Hello, this is Catherine from Taking Tea with Catherine, and this was Tension Tamer tea, which I've had before. I used to drink it a lot in the 90s, actually, back when I used to read Jane Austen. Well, back when I read it for the first time. And it's good tea, it's not great tea, but yeah, it did go pretty fast. But I drank it because I wanted to calm my nerves at how not only how fast this month went, but how sad I am about having to go past Jane Austen July. And it's okay. I'll live. I will survive. Anyway, I should be pleased that July went fast, and I am. So let's go into, well, we already went into a review of the first half of Jane Austen July. So let's go into part two of the Jane Austen July lovely month. And so I'll talk about the books that I haven't talked about yet, and that I've read since, and some of the things I watched. So we're going to start with Love and Friendship, which I'm not going to talk about too long because it literally took me like just about one sitting to read, and it was one of Jane Austen's early writings, and you can tell that she was writing it just, I think, to be funny and fun and just to over dramatize, and like Northanger Abbey, to sort of make fun of the novels of the day. Very much swooning, a lot of fainting, swooning, a lot of sudden disasters, a lot of suddenly running into people out of nowhere. Suddenly people die, suddenly people get engaged, people fainting on couches out of nowhere. Maybe not fainting because it's not good for them, maybe not crying for I don't know. I don't know what was happening in this story. I don't know what I read, but I'm glad it was written only because it kept Jane Austen practicing her writing. So if you want a good few minutes of laughter and incredulity, maybe. So that's one book. And going right into a book that is sort of related both to this book and to Northanger Abbey. So I'm kind of glad I read all of these books in the succession that I read it. Evelina, which I've mentioned a few times. I started it earlier on, and I was like, okay, this is okay, but I'm not sure how much I'm going to like it. And I did like it. I wouldn't say I loved it, but I liked it, and I find that it was important. It was, like Northanger Abbey, it was the main character is a young woman, I'm allergic to you, who was going to travel with other people other than her parents for the first time. And in Evelina's case, she didn't grow up with her parents. She grew up with Mr. Villers, I think his name is. He was, why am I forgetting his name? The Reverend Mr. Villers. And he was such a lovely man. So he brought her up because her mother had died and entrusted her into his care. But she did have sort of an interesting parentage and grandparentage that could possibly be involved. But anyway, he brought her up, and now she is traveling with some friends of the family, and she finds herself in London, and she meets all kinds of people, mainly a lot of men who most of which are difficult to process because Georgian men, I mean, you know, I don't know. I don't know if this how accurate it was, but these guys were just mostly cads. They said horrible things. Yes, she was beautiful, but they didn't have to say things the way they said things to her. There's a Willoughby in this story. His last name is Willoughby. And I wonder if Jane Austen was at all influenced by that name, or if maybe it was a common name back then. I don't know. I don't hear the name very often. Maybe in the United States. I don't know. But anyway, it was there is a main guy who is probably the catch of the story, but he comes across as a little bit unfriendly in the beginning. So Mr. Darcy, anyone, but not quite Mr. Darcy. So, Jane Austen did not cut and paste, but still you see sort of precursors of different things. I think that Jane Austen made an improvement on the novels of her time. Not that this wasn't good, but again, lots of coincidences, some fainting, lots of not so much racism as prejudice. There's a French character who comes into the story who's related to Evelina, and she's kind of made as a ridiculous character, but the family that Evelina travels with, the father comes back. He comes into the story a little bit later, and he just says things to her and plays tricks on her with another character, and it's just so hard to read. You don't see that sort of thing being said nowadays unless the person is a very infamously prejudiced person. So it was weird that way. It was still good. It was interesting to see someone who was new to the ways of, I guess, London life at the time, or just adult life at the time. And then not only is she a little bit, Evelina, a little bit overwhelmed by the people of the slightly higher classes, but at the same time she finds herself later on with people of the lower classes that were semi-related to her, I think, just that say and do things. And you, at first you think maybe she's a bit of a snob, but they really are crass. And it's also another group of people that you're like, how? But I don't know. So she finds herself on every end of the social spectrum, including encountering prostitutes, which I did not expect. I don't think that ever comes across in Jane Austen novels, unless I'm completely mistaken. But anyway, so it was entertaining. Once I got back into reading it, I did keep wanting to read it and find out what happens, so there's that. Just a little bit too much of the kneading, smelling salts that would make Mrs. Bennet blush. So, and now we're going to go into a book that I had totally intended to read in August, but I read a few pages and I just kept reading and I couldn't stop, and that was Unequal Affections, which I had seen recommended on BookTube in numerous places, a retelling of Pride and Prejudice from when Mr. Darcy proposes the first time, and, sorry, spoiler alert, and if Elizabeth responded differently and what would happen. What I liked about it was not only did it really stayed true to the characters, and it also was quite clean, which I always like that, honestly. But I feel like it not only stayed true to the characters, but further explored them. Conversations between men, which you didn't see that much in Jane Austen's, books without women. And just each person, you see them in slightly different, maybe more sympathetic lights, and some people in even less sympathetic lights. And I would just recommend, if you enjoy reading retellings, pastiches, sequels, but like good ones, because like me, I when I finished my first reading of Jane Austen, back when I was reading, classics for the first time, and I loved Jane Austen, suddenly I had no more to read, and I just kept drinking my tension tamer and anxiety of what can I do now, and then I found out that there were sequels written, etc., and I devoured them, and I liked a lot of them, but some of them I just got really tired of, and I said, this is bad quality, and I became a real snob, and now I sort of regret becoming a snob. I became proud and prejudiced, but I think it's like, yeah, you still have to be selective, because there's still some that are not that great. I think I tend to go on recommendations from people that I trust, even if I have never met them, if I've just seen them online. If they read books that I think are great, and they also like a particular retelling, etc., then great. Sorry if I'm defacing you. Anyway, that's one. Now I'm going to talk about two books that I've mentioned a few times here that I got from the library that I have not finished yet. Are they DNFs or are they not? I'm not sure. The Making of Jane Austen. Good, interesting bits so far. I'm up to about chapter 4. It talks a little bit about the early illustrators of her books and how they were a little bit off in their portrayals, or how they maybe were a little more Victorian in their sensibilities and dramatic. But, so it is kind of interesting, but I can't seem to go forward that much. So I don't know. I found this in my local library, at least the one local to my job, so I don't feel bad if I return it, because I can always get it out again, I think. Something's squeaking outside, and my cat is very distracted by it, as am I. Let's keep talking. Northanger Abbey. I want to like this, and I don't hate it. I'm reading so many books that I have to pick the books that I really, really like. And I may keep it out a little longer and try again. But I have War and Peace coming, so who knows? I like the idea of going to Edinburgh for the festivals. Is it Fringe Festival, book festivals? I came to Edinburgh a couple of years ago right after all that. I was grateful because I don't like crowds, so I didn't have to see the crowds, but now I sort of feel like I missed out. But, I don't know. It's interesting. It's written a few years ago, and there's just a lot of talk about Facebook, and I kind of want to say, what about Instagram? What about Snapchat? That just seems a little more of her age. But Cat, she's called in this book, Cat. As a Catherine, I always get interested in what people call their Catherines for short. I never introduced myself as Cat myself because, I don't know, I'm already enough of a cat person, but you can call me Cat. I will respond to it. Or Kath or Kathy, but I don't really care for Kathy as much anymore. I'm going totally off topic. Now, here's another one that, Katie from Books and Things. Another version of Catherine, isn't it? Enjoyed, used a lot, for her. What is squeaking outside? Someone needs WD-40. Very distracting. Let's keep talking. What Matters in Jane Austen. I love this. It's intriguing. 20 crucial puzzles solved. It's like Jane Austen nerdiness. I love Jane Austen nerdiness. Not dry scholarly studies, but I love just questions. These questions. Do sisters sleep together? Why do her plots rely on blunders? What are the right and wrong ways to propose? Why is it risky to go to the seaside? Yes. I'm going to love that, I think. And you know what? I'm just going to keep reading that into August. I know other booktubers are doing Austen August, so I'm not going to necessarily participate actively, but I may be on the fringe of it. Who knows? So, because, you know, any excuse to still be in Jane Austen. A brief note about some of the adaptations I watched. I went beyond what was required for the challenge, which extra credit, but I watched the Northanger Abbey that was made around 2008-ish. Really decent casting. I thought Catherine had the perfect, you know, combination of innocent but having read some horrid novels, so quite an active imagination. They go a little bit dramatic into her imagination, but, and I think there's at least one or two swoons, but that's okay. I would recommend that one. I watched the Jane Austen book club again, and I still like it. I kind of think I like it better than the book because I looked at the book again, and there are parts that I was like, you know, meh. I don't hate it. Good book. You can read it if you want. You know, that doesn't sound very enthusiastic, does it? But anyway, my cat just hit me. This is a very dramatic, you know what? It goes with all those Georgian novels, you know? Suddenly, a cat attacks. Suddenly, something squeaks outside. Swoon. That's as dramatic as it gets for me, isn't it? Anyway, that was pretty good. I'm trying to think of what other ones I watched. Well, a note on the Sense and Sensibility 2008-ish. Again, all of them happened around 7 and 8 when they were doing all those over again, just like a lot of them happened in the mid-90s as well. I really did like it better this time. I think I mentioned it last time that I did, and I did like that it kept closer to the novel, closer to the pace of the novel, but still kept it going. It was a little more accurate, but it made me think about my ranking, and I have kept my ranking as I had posted a few videos earlier. I've kept it the same, but there's a bit of a power struggle going on between Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility on my rereading of Sense and Sensibility and reading all these retellings of Pride and Prejudice. I still love both of them, and I think that I still love Sense and Sensibility slightly more, but I got impatient when I was reading it this time about how long they spent in certain places, like Get Out of London already, and for me to say Get Out of London already takes a lot. So it's a struggle, but I'm going to keep it where it is. Even Northanger Abbey where it was, I enjoyed it quite a lot this time around. Again, I understood a few more things, but I think I'm going to keep my ranking as is. Speaking of which, that video got a shout out, which is my first shout out because I'm really new on BookTube. It was my first shout out, and it was from Spinster's Library, which is a booktuber I really do enjoy, someone who loves books and cats and whatnot, and also participated in Jane Austen's July. So she shouted out a number of people, and I was included among people who I quite admire in their discussions, who I think are a lot more educated than I am, who have a lot more going for them in their knowledge of classic literature and Jane Austen. But hey, it was flattering, and I'm very excited about that, so thank you again. And a couple other good things happened in July. Like I said, a lot of the books I read were good, even if I didn't mention all of them. I still can't believe I read 9 books, and I almost read 10. If I finished the book today, it would have been 10, but I just got a little tired of this particular book. I didn't really go into this month, I wasn't going to discuss too much the other non-Jane Austen books, because I just thought I'm going to keep on theme. And I don't think I'm ever going to be 100% thorough with my coverage of any month, especially when I'm reading 9, almost 10 books. I read a graphic novel I liked, but didn't like enough to recommend. And I read a book about books, which was good. I showed it in one of my previous videos that I got out of the library. I'm still in the middle of a number of other books because a woman's work is never done. So anyway, I'm rambling on about my month now. Let's just suffice it to say, as I hold up my empty cup, this is also quite an older cup, by the way. It's just this cute, it's for kids. It's a Hello Kitty, a fairy kitty, very cute book. But I'm going to have other videos coming up that are not Jane Austen related, but I think I'm going to sneak her in every once in a while. She just can't be left alone. Look at her. She's hovering over me in the background. So is Sherlock Holmes. I'm going to talk about him more often too. I still have to do another haul. I have so many hauls, and one of the booktubers that I quite like did a giveaway, and I won. Yay. So I'm going to have to mention that in a haul because I'm very excited about that. So something hopefully to look forward to. So if you liked our discussion today, I'm talking in plural again. I am the queen. Anyway, you can comment down below, like, subscribe, all the things. If I see your comments and I don't know your channel, I will probably look at it as well, because I love talking about books and I love listening to people talking about books. It is fun. Anyway, so here comes Empty, It's so cute, though. I'm sorry, I'm getting very distracted, and my cat is distracting me. So, a very distracted end of July wrap-up. Hope you enjoyed. Have a lovely night, lovely day, lovely August. See you soon. Bye!